Hey, you crazy cats, welcome to Leaving CrazyTown, where we navigate the roller coaster of relationships, mental health, and personal transformation with humor as our trusty seatbelt.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and with my buddy Finn, we're here to share our real stories, expert insights, practical tips to help you break free from codependency, reclaim your life, and find freedom.
So whether you're wrestling with boundary issues, craving connections that won't ghost you, or just here for a front row seat to the wild ride of self-discovery, you've come to the right place.
So buckle up, we're leaving CrazyTown.
Welcome to Leaving CrazyTown with Finn and Sarah. I'm Finn and that's Sarah. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is when you are no longer using certain substances to get your needs met, but you're not really fully aware, or you're still in codependency and you need to get your needs met, but you only know how to communicate with people through drama, BS, you're fearful you can't tell the truth, right? Can't ask for what you want and need. Maybe you haven't fully identified it yet, but you're afraid, like, oh, if I ask Sarah to go to the movies with me, she might say no. Do you think that's likely? Nah.
I'll never say no to the movies.
I know. I knew it wasn't me, right? She'll never say no to the movies.
Yeah, so we're looking at behaviors that we've used in the past to get what we want. And we always say these are behaviors that were brilliant when we were little or younger because we had to take care of business, right? We became very self-reliant when we learned these tools, like Finn is saying, manipulation, people pleasing, avoiding issues completely,
Making shit up.
making up stories.
It might be a true story, but you're making up how it made you feel, right? You're making it into a bigger deal than it is.
Yes, lying, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lying about your
Drama.
feelings.
Yeah. Over exaggerating, being seductive. So instead of like just being a certain way with people in meetings because you want to create friendships, this happens early on with a lot of women, and myself included. When I first got sober, I didn't know how to relate to people.
I married my sponsor.
I
Enough said.
Okay. Right. Another episode. But yes, we don't know how to get our needs met. So we behave in different ways to get those needs met.
Oh, so embarrassing.
It doesn't work.
Embarrassing.
Okay.
But it started, right? I was telling
Yes.
Sarah earlier when I was a little kid and I moved to a new town and the neighbors are out in their yard playing and they're playing kickball and I want to play and I see them out the window. So I start running around my backyard, hanging out, waiting for them to ask me to play.
Yes.
I was usually successful at being invited to play, but why didn't I just go over and say, can I play?
Yes.
Because what if they said no?
That's another brilliant point that we're going to bring up. These behaviors typically come out of fear. So if I have the fear of rejection, what am I going to do? I'm going to not expose myself. I'm going to try to figure out some other way. I was just giving Finn this example of my father. This is so brutal. This is part of why I'm so flamingly codependent. He later on, when I started setting boundaries and stuff, and I moved back here from California, he would just show up at my house and I'd say, Dad, I've told you over and over again, you need to call and communicate and see if I'm available. And he would say to me, I can't call because you might say no.
And that, you know, when we talked on another video about the codependent no,
yes,
this is like the opposite. We don't want to ask because we don't want to hear no, you know? And it's funny that we think somebody would just straight out and say no when most people we're talking about can't say no directly.
Right.
But the truth is, if I just set myself up in a scenario where I'm over Sarah's or I'm out in the yard trying to get and nothing's asked directly, I don't have to feel that rejection. But I just want to point out, people, that when somebody says no to a request, it's a no to the request. It's not a rejection of you. And I think that's where we all get confused. We're like, they said no, I've been rejected. No, the request has been rejected, not you.
And don't make up a big story. That's the other thing. A lot of times if something happens where we have feelings, we have to make up some story to make sense of it. And very often the story is related to the past.
Yeah.
So examples, you have the fear of other people's opinions, or you have the fear of not being liked. This was a big one for me. So I become a people pleaser and I have to be nice. Not that I'm not a nice person, but it was a way I tried to be liked, even when it was people that I didn't necessarily want to be nice to. So again, it's looking at what are your big fears that lead to some of these behaviors. So go ahead.
I was going to say another example would be calling somebody and saying, I'm going through a really hard time. I wish I had somebody to talk to or get coffee, or I'm thinking about going to get something to eat. And, but you're dropping kind of like you're making yourself sound sad when really you just want to spend time with the person.
Yes.
And you can't ask them. So you're like, you think you can manipulate them into feeling bad for you. And I got to tell you, Finn over here, if you say to me, do you want to go grab something to eat or go for a walk? I'm a 90% yes if my calendar allows for it. But if you say, and I can feel like it's made up. I'm like, because I sense that something's off. I feel like I'm being manipulated. And then I don't want to be around it.
Yes, that's a great point. When someone isn't just being honest and asking you for a need to be met, whatever that is, getting together, doing a favor for them, listening to them share about something, and they do it in some manipulative way, we feel it. And it doesn't feel good because I think it leads to also not trusting someone. If someone's not being real with me,
it doesn't feel
right. And we become distrustful of it. We want clarity. Go ahead.
I was just thinking the example you gave about your dad, right? So he comes over, you're upset now.
Yep.
Every time.
Yep.
Just not listening, not following my boundaries. However, he calls you and says, oh, do you have time? I'd like to come for a visit. You have the ability to say, you know what, this afternoon I'm really busy, but tomorrow morning, why don't you come over? So now you haven't said yes to the particular time he wanted to come, but you're able to make a plan. But if you just keep showing up, you're getting the door slammed in your face.
Yes.
Probably not that rudely, but at some point, maybe.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, boundaries definitely comes into it. Absolutely. And it's people that are afraid of, like you're saying, he was so afraid of the feelings he would have that, by the way, were not about me.
And I want to share with you a little story about fear and how fear is an energetic thing, which you might think I'm crazy, but most of us that grew up in unsafe homes and so forth, when the energy's off, we feel it.
Yes.
So my wife used to go shopping and her ex had a problem with all the stuff she would buy. So she would hide it in her car. So inevitably she would come home with bags of stuff and enter the house and she would be fearful. And I would always say to her, oh, what'd you buy? Because I felt like all the attention was on this bag that was being brought in the house. So I'd try to be attentive and ask.
Yep.
And she would be like, oh, why are you judging me? Whatever. She told me one time, she goes, I can't believe what just happened. And I said, what? And she said, I came in the house with a bag and you didn't ask me about it. What she told me she had done was on the porch before she came in the door, she asked for help to have the fear removed about my opinion about her bag. And it was like, it was so obvious. Like I wasn't even, her energy was so clear. She came in, I paid attention to her. I wasn't focused on the bag because her energy about what she had bought was really like entered that fear. So if you're manipulating and you're making stuff up, the fear is entering the relationship and the communication and everything before the words. And those of us that grew up having to be hyper vigilant to be safe, we're going to sense it and we're going to repel.
Yes.
It's going to repel us.
It's so great. God, I heard something actually from a guy I interviewed recently, and he was talking about trauma and PTSD and stuff. And he said something, hopefully I'm going to say this right, that people, the average person, say, they're sitting at their home and suddenly a bear comes to the window and they're in shock and they look over and they're like, oh my God. And they have this response. That's like a normal response, right? If people grow up in trauma with like constant stress and
someone says hi.
Yeah. They are walking around like the bear is constantly following.
Right.
And that really made a lot of sense to me because if you're in that, you're going to be very hypervigilant to your environment, and you're going to be very hypervigilant. You're going to go in with fear. I mean, so much of healing from codependency and addiction is learning how to tolerate your fear.
Yes.
And de-escalate your body.
De-escalate your body. I was going to say that I don't feel like the bear is on my shoulder anymore. But what I would do is scan the environment. Like you're saying, I don't do that as much anymore, but I still have the beacon of something's coming at me. It doesn't feel authentic.
Yes.
It doesn't, words and the energy don't match. I'm still very in tune to that. Everyone that's listening, and I'm sure, Sarah and I have talked about this. When we looked at some of the behaviors we would do in codependency and in our addiction, we would see that what we really wanted was never going to happen when we were motivated by fear.
Yes.
Never. Like the actions that come out of that do not result in relationship.
Yes. And the other thing I just wanted to say also, and you've talked about this before, is sometimes we talk about codependent behaviors being like overly kind and overly nice and acquiescing. But the other part of behaviors that we learned early on is someone could be angry all the time. They could be rejecting of people. They could be blaming others. Everything could be externalized. I do believe some of us survive by mastering kind of softer ways of dealing, and other people survive by being aggressive and external. So which one are you? Do you use certain behaviors in certain circumstances?
To draw people to you?
Yes.
Or to
reject. Yeah. So think about this. What are some behaviors, or maybe just pick one, that you notice you do when you're afraid to get what you want, but it typically doesn't work out for whatever reason? And I think when we're not being authentic and really practicing being clear with people, it can send us down a bad road. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, bottom line, we are going to be required to take risks.
Yes.
And just remember, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the request.
So much of stuff is not personal. And I always say this, right? We're each in our own hula hoop. They're in their own hula hoop. And I often use my son as an example. If I was going to take everything he did between the ages of 15 and 20, personally, I wouldn't be here. None of it was about me.
Right.
It's about how he's responding to his environment. And he might have feelings about me. It's still not about me. It's what's going on inside of him. So that's what this recovery is really about, focusing on our hula hoops, what's going on here, not taking stuff personally. And remember the mantra, I am not responsible for someone else's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And they are responsible for their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And if they say no to us, it's about what's happening in their hula hoop.
And I would say that 90% of my no's are based on the fact that my schedule doesn't allow for it. And I want to go.
Yes.
And it's actually a bummer that I can't. So I know when I'm saying no, usually it's because it's just not going to work out. It has nothing to do with the person.
Yes. Yes.
All right. We're out of here.
We're out of here. Fasten your seatbelt. We're leaving.
Thanks for listening to Leaving CrazyTown. We hope today's episode offered you valuable insights and tools to help navigate your relationship.
If you found our discussion helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. And share it with a friend. Misery loves company, right?
Stay connected with us on social media and visit our website for additional resources and updates on future episodes.
Until next time, remember that breaking free from codependency is a journey, and we're here to help you every step of the way. And hey, if all else fails, at least you'll have a few laughs.
So buckle up. We're leaving CrazyTown.